political, I never thought that I would stand in a room like this introducing the leader of a political party. But sometimes life takes you down a path you never expected, and when it does, you learn very quickly who's really there for you. In 2017, I lost my daughter Millie. She was just 10 years old, full of life, funny, strong, and brave beyond words. Millie had survived cancer. She was in remission. We thought the hardest part was behind us. However, she died of an infection she caught in hospital, an infection that should never have been allowed to happen. And for a long time, I didn't know the truth. What followed was the most painful and isolating experience of my life. I wasn't just grieving my child, I was fighting a system that didn't want to give answers. A system that closed ranks, deflected blame, and treated families like an inconvenience. It would have been easier to give up, but then someone stood up and said, "This isn't good enough." This person was Sarwar. He listened, really listened, when so many others looked away. He stood beside me when I felt I was standing alone, and he helped uncover the truth, and he gave me the strength to keep going, even when it felt impossible. And I know I'm not the only one. Anas has stood up for many families like mine, families fueled by powerful institutions who thought no one would challenge them. That's why I'm here, not because I'm political, but because I know what it means to be let down. And I know what it means when someone refuses to let that happen again. Anas Sarwar is a man of compassion, of principle, and of courage. He doesn't care whether something is easy or popular, he does what's right. And that's the kind of leadership we need now more than ever. That is the type of politician we need as Scotland's next First Minister. 1 year from now, we have that chance. So it is my absolute honour to introduce the leader of the Scottish Labour Party, my friend, Anas Sarwar.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that really kind introduction, Kimberly. It's kind of hard to follow that, to be honest. You are without a doubt one of the bravest, most impressive people I've ever met in my life. And you are a great credit to Millie and your family every single day, Kimberly. Your energy, your determination, your commitment, and your remarkable steel are a source of great strength to me and pride to your family, and that's why I'm so proud to call you my friend. Thank you so much. Please, a big cheer for Kimberly. How Kimberly has fought tirelessly for justice for Millie and for other families affected by the crisis, as I say, has been a great source of inspiration for me. And it's been my honour, actually, to stand with you and other families to fight for justice. And your fight for justice against the Health Board, against the government, and against the powers that be is the clearest example of why we need a change here in Scotland and why the election next year is so important. And nowhere is the need for a new direction made clearer than the scandal at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, just miles from where we are today. As Kimberly's already told you, Millie died after contracting a waterborne infection at the QUH while undergoing treatment. She was just 10 years old. But Millie's family were not alone in their grief. Several other families suffered the death or severe illness of loved ones due to infections contracted through contaminated water in the QUH, Scotland's flagship hospital. But when these families sought answers, they were met with denial, deflection, and in some cases, outright hostility. SNP minister after SNP minister rolled in behind the Health Board, and those in power did everything they could to cover up their failures. Families crying out for justice met with the full might of an establishment that thought the priority was sorting the PR, not their fatal flaws. And now the very same Health Board that denied these problems is the subject of a corporate homicide investigation because of the relentless campaigning of Kimberly and others. And the excuses of the bureaucrats and SNP ministers have collapsed like a house of cards. all their tactics did was deepen the pain and delay the justice for the bereaved. Because when these families most needed support, when they found themselves facing heartbreak of unimaginable levels, the state closed ranks. SNP ministers were on the side of the state, not of the families. No family should ever have to go through what the family of Millie Mayne has and what Kimberley has. And never again should the power of the state and the bureaucracy stand between Scots and justice. And ultimately, this is what drives me. This is why I am so determined to change our country and deliver justice for Millie Mayne once and for all. Friends, in 1 year's time, Scotland faces a stark choice. The Scottish election in 2026 is about whether we have a government that continues to serve itself with the SNP or a government in the service of the people of Scotland with Labour. Because in 1 year's time, Scotland is going to have to make a choice. Do we carry on with a third decade of the SNP in charge, or do we change direction? Do we view our Scottish Parliament, our Scottish Government, and our Scottish election, as the SNP do, as a vehicle for protest, or do we view it, as I do, as a vehicle to change people's lives in Scotland? Now, the Scottish Government has immense power to improve lives, from the running of our NHS, our education system, our justice and policing, our planning laws, housing, social security, and our public transport system. This Scottish Government can, if it has the will, use its power to transform lives and communities for the better. These aren't abstract powers and responsibilities. These are the levers that allow people to get a hospital appointment when they need it. The powers to ensure our children are properly educated and prepared for the world of work. And the powers to keep our streets safe and make sure everyone has a home to call their own. This is the privilege of power the Scottish Government has at its disposal. But with these powers comes a responsibility to use every lever at our disposal to improve the lives of Scots. So next year, no more excuses, no more deflecting the blame, but a government that takes responsibility and acts for the people of Scotland. But we know that after nearly 2 decades of the SNP being in charge here in Scotland, things aren't going in the right direction. At the coming election, the people of Scotland will have a chance to pass a verdict on the performance of this SNP government and its record and decide if it wants more of the same. And let's talk about that record that the SNP wants to ignore or hope that you will forget. More than 10,000 children stuck in temporary accommodation without a home to call their own. Thousands of Scots frozen out of the housing market with home ownership left as an unattainable dream. Falling standards across Scotland's schools with soaring classroom violence, leaving pupils and teachers at breaking point. Rising violence in our streets, with police officers begging for support to help fight raging gang wars in Glasgow and Edinburgh. The national shame that is drug deaths rising once again with only warm words in response. Almost 1 in 6 Scots stuck waiting in pain and anxiety on an NHS waiting list. And young Scots in mental health crisis left to wait years, yes, years, for the treatment they deserve. This is the brutal reality that Scotland is facing, and this is the brutal record of this tired SNP government. We can't go on like this. So the next Scottish Parliament elections are only a year away. And we have a year to decide whether we believe that this is as good as it gets, or we choose to chart a new direction for our country. Because after 18 years in power, if the SNP had any ideas of how to fix the problems our country faces, we'd have seen them by now. And after 18 years, they have lost their way, are out of steam, and are out of ideas. So the choice is a third decade of the SNP in power or a new direction. And this coming election will be the most consequential and important in the history of devolution. And this Scottish Labour Party is ready to fight it and win it for the people of Scotland. Now, we already know what John Swinney wants to make this election about. He wants to make it all about the new bogeyman, Nigel Farage, and use that chancer as an excuse to talk about everything but the SNP's record in government. And with his record of failure, it's no wonder. He's the man that broke the NHS, so it's no wonder he doesn't want to talk about our health service. He's the man that oversaw the falling standards in our schools and marked down the exam results of working class kids during the pandemic, so it's no surprise he doesn't want to talk about that either. He's the man that exported jobs and opportunities overseas while Scottish communities lost out. But instead of dealing with his own failures, John Swinney will recklessly talk up Farage. Nigel Farage is John Swinney's new cover to replace the Tories. But the truth is, I don't care about Nigel Farage, and Nigel Farage doesn't care about Scotland. This election is a straight choice between John Swinney or me. I want to fix our NHS. John Swinney, talk about Nigel Farage. I want to end the waste and respect your money. John Swinney wants to talk about Nigel Farage. I want to make sure your kids are safe in school and get the opportunities they need. John Swinney wants to talk about Nigel Farage. John Swinney will talk about anything apart from his record. Well, I want to deliver for the people of Scotland, and with his shameful tactics, John Swinney wants to defraud the people of Scotland, but the people of Scotland know better. Because the election next year matters. Because if you care about the NHS and it matters to you, then who the next Scottish Government is matters. If you care about our education and value your children's education, then who the next Scottish Government is matters. If you care about feeling safe and secure and want safe streets and secure communities, then who the next Scottish Government is matters. And if you want new jobs and opportunities for Scots, then who the next Scottish Government is matters. And if you want to end the SNP's addiction to wasting your money, then who the next Scottish Government is matters. And if you want a new direction for Scotland, then the next Scottish Government matters. And that's why I am putting myself forward to be the next First Minister of Scotland, ready to roll up my sleeves and get our great country Scotland back on track. And the first task of my Scottish Labour Government will be to fix our NHS. The NHS is at the bedrock of our society, and when it works, it can transform lives. And as a former NHS dentist, I've seen that up close. The NHS is in my DNA. It's what brought me into public service. But the truth is, the SNP have broken our NHS. 800,000 Scots, that's 1 in every 6 Scots, are on an NHS waiting list. Cancer treatment targets have been missed and missed again. And thousands of people have been forced to pay for private healthcare out of desperation and pain. We cannot go on like this. But all the SNP has to offer is more dither and decline while you suffer. So unlike John Swinney, I know the NHS. For years I worked in it as an NHS dentist in Paisley. I know the challenges that doctors and nurses face every day. And that's why we have a plan to fix our NHS and make it free and available at the point of need once again. We will end the ATM rush for GP appointments and ensure that all Scots are seen within 48 hours. But yesterday you heard John Swinney's great plan for the NHS. What did he say he'll do? He said they would create 100,000 additional GP appointments to end the ATM rush. That's the equivalent of 1 extra appointment per GP every fortnight. that's hardly going to end the ATM rush for a GP appointment. So we will make use of all the capacity available across our country to get people the treatment they need. And yes, even if it is in the private sector, to make sure Scots get the treatment they need without having to pay for it out of their own pockets. And we will declare a national NHS emergency to tackle waiting times. And we will scrap expensive bureaucracy and red tape to empower doctors and nurses on the front line. This is the new direction we will deliver for our NHS. So the choice next year is this: the SNP who broke our NHS, or the NHS dentist that will do whatever it takes to fix it. With a Scottish Government that is on the side of the people, I firmly believe that Scotland's best days lie ahead. We are a country of remarkable potential and ingenuity. We are blessed with natural resources that make us uniquely placed to deliver the green jobs of the future. We are home to numerous world-leading and unique industries, from whisky and salmon to computer games and a burgeoning film industry. And we have world-class universities and colleges ready to equip the next generation of Scots and help our country flourish. While the UK Labour Government and Keir Starmer have started to deliver the change across the UK, to get Scotland back on track, we need new thinking, new energy and new leadership here in Scotland. Because we all know how a third decade of the SNP would go. More addiction to wasting public money. Scotland's schools and hospital continuing to be in steady decline. Yes, there'll be plenty of press releases and strategies, but there'll be no delivery. Always looking for someone else to blame, all while Scotland falls behind. After nearly 2 decades of the SNP, it's time for something different. And at this election, the only party that can beat the SNP and deliver this new direction is Scottish Labour. That's why I'll be putting Scottish Labour's clear plan to get Scotland back on its feet to the people. A plan to fix our NHS so that it's there for all who need it. A plan for our energy future and to deliver jobs by ending the ideological block to new nuclear energy. A plan to keep our children safe by clamping down on antisocial behaviour in schools, starting with banning mobile phones in the classrooms. And a plan to deliver a brighter future for our young people by rewiring our skills system so young Scots are ready to succeed. A plan to get our confidence back, our energy back, and to bring back hope to the people of Scotland. This is what I offer. New leadership, new thinking, a new government, a new direction for Scotland. Let's go win that future together. Thank you. Thank you. Cheer for you. Cheer for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm saying to Kimberley, the loudest cheers are for Kimberley, of course, from all of that. We're going to take a few questions from print journalists. We'll take Chris McCall from the Daily Record.
Hi, Anas. Have you seen Labour in Wales attempt to distance itself from the UK government ahead of next year's election? Is it time for Labour in Scotland to do the same?
Well, the choice next year is whether we change the Scottish Government. And the choice next year is whether we have a third decade of the SNP or a new direction with Scottish Labour, whether we have John Swinney in power for a third decade or me as First Minister charting that new direction. And of course, where there is a difference, we will say so, but ultimately the choice next year is who continues to be the Scottish Government. And again, just like John Swinney wants to make the election about Nigel Farage, he'll also want to try and make the election about a UK Labour government. Next year, you can't change a UK government, you can change a Scottish government, and the only way of doing that is by voting Scottish Labour.
But do you accept that Keir Starmer is costing you and your party support in Scotland?
Well, I've always said that there would be no route to a Scottish Labour government unless we elected a UK Labour government. I think the politics would be fundamentally different now had the Tories won again. Has a UK Labour government made great progress? Yes. Is there more work to do? Absolutely. But the choice next year is a third decade of John Swinney and the SNP or a new direction with me as First Minister. Kathleen from the Herald.
Hello there, Anna. Thank you. You referenced Prime Minister in your speech, and clearly all eyes are on the next year's Labour elections. But there's a by-election, obviously, next month in Hamilton. And will Keir Starmer be campaigning in that by-election? And if so, what sort of reception will he get, do you think, on the doorstep?
Well, I'm sure people will be delighted that we have a UK Labour Prime Minister, but the people we need to see on the doorstep are all these people here. So I would encourage you all, please, straight after you leave, head straight to Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse to make sure you're champing those doors, having those conversations. And I'm leading our campaign here in Scotland. I'm the candidate for First Minister. I'm the one that wants to beat the SNP and change our country's direction. I hope that starts in Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse in 4 weeks' time. So we don't expect the Prime Minister to be campaigning in Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse. He wasn't in the by-elections down the road. We are leading this campaign in Scotland. It's a Scottish Labour campaign to elect a Scottish Labour MSP and as part of a pathway of delivering a Scottish Labour government next year. I think, look, we can't be complacent about that style of politics anywhere, but ultimately, if we are going to stop pushing people towards divisive politics and divisive politicians, then we need a Scottish government that's actually going to deliver for people. And the answer to people's challenges, whether it be about the inability to get a house, whether it be the inability to get a hospital appointment, whether it's an inability to get a job, is by actually confronting those issues using the powers we have, rather than deflecting from those issues and talking about politicians like Nigel Farage. John Swinney's obsessed with them. I couldn't care about him. He doesn't care about Scotland. I'm focused on the issues that matter. And ultimately, next year the choice is a third decade of the SNP or me as First Minister. The SNP have destroyed our NHS. They're ruining our public services. A vote for reform only helps the SNP. If you want to get rid of the SNP, the only way you can do that is by voting Scottish Labour. I'll take Christine from Hollywood Magazine. You're hiding in the corner there.
There have been a number of defections in Scottish politics in recent months, mostly from the Scottish Conservatives to reform. We've also seen Scottish Conservatives to the Liberal Democrats. What discussions has Scottish Labour had with any members of any sphere of government that might need to move across?
Well, I think there's certainly plenty of Scottish Conservative councillors jumping to reform, and you mentioned Jamie Green. I think that's probably more the fact that they realise that Conservative Party is in terminal decline, and thank goodness for that, having destroyed our country over the last 14 years. I will shed no tears if both SNP and Tory politicians lose their seats and get beat. What I'm focused on is increasing support for Labour, persuading people that only we can change the direction of our country, and that next year the election is a straight choice between John Swinney and the SNP or me and the Scottish Labour Party. A third decade of them or a new direction with me. That's the choice, and that's why I'm excited about the election campaign next year. And last but not least, I'll take Craig from PA.
Thanks a lot for that. You're essentially using the same campaign, the same slogan of change and direction. You know, the elections in England suggest that a lot of Brits don't like that change. Will you be Sarwar 2.0 for Scotland?
I'll be an Sarwar 1.0, and it'll be change from John Swinney and the SNP. The reality is, you referenced slogans or straplines. We fought in a campaign of change last year, and we elected 37 brilliant Scottish Labour MPs, and we are going to deliver change next year at the Scottish Parliament election and elect a whole host of new Scottish Labour MSPs, many of those fantastic candidates sitting at either side of me, because we are ultimately determined to use the great power of government to improve people's lives. And that's why, again, and I'll end at this point, next year it's a straight choice. John Swinney or me. the SNP or Scottish Labour, the NHS in decline with them or fixed with Labour, our education standards in decline with them or a new direction for our young people with me, safety and security on our streets with us, or a continuation of people feeling unsafe and not able to see a police officer with the SNP, an addiction to wasting people's money, billions of pounds lost with the SNP, or respect of public money with me. That's the choice, that's the frame of the election next year, and we're going to go out and win that election for the people of Scotland. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Want to come up? Give your best friend a wave. Give your best friend.
Paul Sinclair.
Give a thumbs up, Jackie. Thank you. Up to you.